In this podcast, we will conduct interviews and discussions on topics that may be controversial. You will hear us agree and disagree on various topics. The topics we choose to discuss are meant to bring to light knowledge that is known by some and will be beneficial for others to learn so that they can have a better understanding of those around them.
Hi, welcome back to our podcast, Breaking the Iceberg. I'm joined here with
Red,
Maya,
Alyssa,
Bianca.
and Kurt.
and my name's Kaya. And today we are talking about the effects of mental health in school. And do you want to start us off, Kurt?
Sure. So my first question, I'm kind of pulling a college professor move here. Everyone is going to give their own definition of mental health, what it means to them personally.
I think that mental health can be defined as like the overall state of my psyche, like how well my brain feels, if you want to put it in a little bit more simple terms. Yeah.
Okay.
I think
perfect.
I agree. That's like the perfect definition, honestly.
I don't know how I can, how we can add to
Oh,
that.
do that,
was
right?
perfect.
Okay, I agree to that definition. I would probably add to it, even though it's not that different. But basically, I like how you said how your brain feels, but that also affects like your everyday mood because, one day it could be good, one day it could be bad, and that also affects you physically. So yeah, I would just add that.
I definitely agree with that because if my state of mental health is really bad for the day, I call it a bad brain day.
Yeah.
When I feel like super anxious or depressed, I call it a bad brain day. And that's where I get into this dysfunctional state. I can't do anything productive. I need to eat lunch, but the thought of getting a plate, making a meal, making the decision on what to eat, all of that is too much. So I just won't eat. And if I have the time, I'll take a nap. But it's not even really a nap. It's going through the anxieties.
It's like your brain can't function.
Yeah.
Almost. Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
To piggyback off of what Bianca said, I definitely agree with that. It's a challenge when your brain is in that state to really perform normal daily tasks that everybody else is easy to do. It's constant for them. It's just normal. But once you're in that state of mind, it's kind of hard to do anything, even though you know you have to. It's just that mentality of I can't do this even though I want to, and it's not. It doesn't matter how bad you want to get the task done or whatever the case may be. It's like a hold on you, and it's a weird feeling, honestly.
It is a good feeling. Just to go off of what Maya was saying, rewording it in a different way, it's basically just something that affects us mentally, physically, emotionally. And along with what Red was saying, I completely agree because I struggle also with mental health issues. And I hate the word struggle, but also it's no really other way to describe it.
You could say working through.
Because my mom also hates the word when I say struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's like, you're not struggling through it. You just got to work through it, like you said.
Yeah.
You're going to get through it eventually. But at the same time, I don't want to hear that sometimes. Sometimes it just takes a hold of me sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I am struggling with it.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Those are all very good definitions. Next, I wanted to focus on different stigmas or stereotypes that go around mental health and mental health treatment. And I wanted to focus specifically on how race may play a part into that and how gender may play a part into that.
Boom. Great question, Kurt. Okay. So, we're going to dibble into the race, and we're going to dibble into you said
Gender.
Gender. Okay.
Yes.
So, for race, I'm black. My mother, treated mental health as if it's not real. She thought, because it's gotten better, she thought that mental health was just it's like something you decide. But I feel like when you have poor mental health, that's not something that you choose to do. It's just how your brain just works unintentionally. So I think I've said this before in an episode prior, that when I was in high school and I would have those days where I just didn't want to go out, I just wanted to stay in my room would be a mess, the house would be a mess, because I just physically couldn't clean. I felt like, I wouldn't call that I was depressed, because I don't think I was depressed. I think I was just not in the best mental health, and my mom would see that as being lazy instead of me just not needing that care. And she thought that mental health was just something that you just choose to do. I chose not to get up out my bed. It was just like that. And I think that's because in the Black community, it's getting better now because we're acknowledging it. But before, we would just see that as something that can be controlled, but not everyone can control their mental health. You don't know how you're gonna feel tomorrow. Right.
Okay, rock, paper, scissors. Okay.
Y'all are so funny. They're gonna hear the meat smacking.
I'm assuming you're gonna cut all that, right?
No, we're gonna keep that in. That was for the blooper reel. Y'all, they just rock, paper, scissors. That's what y'all just heard.
What meat are you talking about?
I am also Black, and my parents are Christian. So before, my parents were more so my dad. He would be you can't let the devil, come into your life like that. You gotta worship God all the time and say, you can't let him take over you. You gotta keep your spirits high, which I do agree with. I gotta keep my spirits high. Mm-hmm. But it's not a spiritual thing. The devil's not taking over my body, and I'm not. But
it's not you don't need an exercise.
I don't need an exercise.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. No, I need you to be there for me and support me.
Right.
And I think that's one of the stigmas that comes with being a religious family. Mm-hmm. Whenever I'm not religious myself, per se.
So, kind of touching on the gender aspect of this, for me, I just didn't want, I struggled with mental health a lot through high school, and still sometimes do, and I just didn't want to be seen as, a stereotype, because I was, the sort of, middle class, white appearing girl, that struggled with self-harm and kind of an eating disorder. I don't know if it was eating disorder or disordered eating, but that I just didn't want to be seen as the stereotype, because then I felt like I wasn't going to be taken seriously because it wasn't bad enough or whatever. And especially with the gender stereotypes of that, I don't know, because it wasn't me. It wasn't the stereotypical, oh, I'm doing this for attention, oh, something awful has happened sort of thing. So it was really I don't know, it just made me very hesitant to reach out for help. It's just, I don't know, being a girl is hard.
It is hard.
You literally, you can have bad mental health and be criticized for it, or have good mental health and be criticized for it,
Exactly.
or be somewhere in the middle or on a journey to heal and be criticized for it, just because it's God forbid women do anything.
Anything wrong.
Or too good.
Exactly.
Yes.
I'd like to speak on the seeking help part of the question and the stigma around that. So when I was in high school, my mom and I had this huge falling out. It was a big situation in my life that led to a lot of other things. But at the time, she sought out help, and she spent some time in a hospital. But she got the help that she needed, and it was my first experience of realizing that past trauma is can affect your mental health and can completely change the person that you are. Because my mother is this like super nurturing, always has my back kind of person. And after she got help and she talked to me about the things that were holding her back and some things that she had repressed, and she really got help. So it put like it set the tone for getting help when you need it, and I really looked up to her for that. But at the time, I still myself couldn't seek help because there was still like such that bad stigma. Even though I saw what it did for my mom and how she was able to overcome that, I still myself like couldn't seek help. So I had like I too struggled with disordered eating. I definitely had a time with bulimia because I was in pageants and I needed to fit in dresses, and if I couldn't zip my dress and get into that expensive dress that we bought, then I needed to throw up to be able to fit into it. And so that was a really big deal. And so I spent a lot of time, and it wasn't until like the past couple of years of my life that I have like really dug into my thoughts and how, like, why I think the way I think. So anytime like I have bad brain days, I'm going through my head like, okay, I had this feeling, where could that have possibly come from? I still haven't gotten help yet because I have anxiety about making phone calls and making appointments.
I think we all can agree to that.
Yeah, the hard part is just getting started, but I think it's definitely like, it's great to seek help because we're struggling with things. I really think everyone could benefit from a little bit of therapy. Even if you think your brain is perfect, like, everyone could benefit from a little bit of therapy.
And your therapist has a therapist.
Correct.
Everyone needs someone to talk to.
Everyone needs someone, yeah.
What about you, Red?
Red.
Okay. Well, honestly, I feel like I had like almost not necessarily everyone's experience, but like I definitely connect with majority of what has being said. I am Black, and my parents are Jamaican, so they definitely have that Christian mentality that you were talking about, Kaya earlier. Sorry. And so with that being said, like that was definitely challenging, especially because having siblings and having them go through it, you get to observe how your parents react to certain things, which makes you dial down or dial up the way you perceive yourself as a person. So for me, my sister had some mental issues, as well as probably most of the children in the house, I'm not gonna lie. But so she had some mental issues, and she was very vocal about her experience throughout with me and with family, and they said, no, it's not a big deal. No, you're not going through that. No, you're not doing that. Even though she was, trigger warning, cutting herself or whatever the case may be, and she was showing active signs of mental illness, nobody took her seriously. They thought it was the devil. They thought it was foolishness. They thought, no, this is not you. This is not how I raised you. And I think that is absurd. But it's just the culture and the generational trauma, like Bianca was saying earlier. It's just that constant reassurance of this is how you're supposed to be, this is how you're supposed to live, and nobody really breaks that barrier of the mind is unmeasurable. You can't tell when you're in pain. You can't tell when your brain is not working. So it's just it's
you're not in control.
Exactly. And I feel like everybody was saying earlier, should talk to a therapist no matter what, because at the end of the day, your mental illness can kill you, and it is deadly.
I was gonna say, I think it's kind of like it's so hard to get through this because it's like you have this thing where you want to blame your parents, but then again, no one was there for them when they needed it. And so we're here to also teach them while we also need that healing from them. So it's very hard to get through it, but you can't get, I feel like I can't be too mad because they didn't get the treatment that they needed, and so therefore they're trying to do their best with me even though they weren't taught that. So it's like, it's just hard. It's like very hard.
I feel like we're all out here just doing the best we can, and I really love what you said about like they're doing the best they can, because I can look back at things and think like why would my mom do that, like why would this be the reaction? But we have to look back at, well, like how were our parents treated as kids, because like, if I were to have a kid right now, I wouldn't know what to do. Like, I'd be figuring it out myself. Like, they're all figuring it out as they go, like, trial and error. And I feel like at the end of the day, like, my mom did the absolute best she could. Like, the generational trauma, that's a serious thing
But
there.
it's definitely getting better though.
It is.
Okay, yeah, you all made wonderful points about just the stigmas around mental health itself. So as someone who has been in a psych ward and has been in treatment for different issues, there is definitely a stigma and white privilege that goes along with being in a psych ward and with being admitted, because when you are in there, whether you're in the adult facility or you're in the youth facility, you will notice that it is mainly white people in there. And it is also mainly girls in there. That's a whole nother thing. But it is mainly white people. But it's not just white people that are going into the
system.
the diagnosis process of it or whatever. There's multiple different people in the waiting rooms, but it's who they accept. They have very specific standards for what they accept, and who knows what's going on with everyone, because they do have to check off certain parts, but there is a very weird white privilege stigma around who can be accepted into a psych ward. And once you're up there, you won't see many people of color unless it is like a serious issue. And something I have also noticed is the only people of color that were accepted, at least at my psych ward the several times I went, was people who were not suicidal but were homicidal. They did not accept any suicidal people of color at this specific psych ward. It had to be like you were on the homicidal or schizophrenic. They only accepted, quote unquote, what they would consider the crazy people in the psych ward for people of color. It's a very weird thing.
What is this world?
That is so
It's very
sad,
weird.
because imagine the strength it takes to even admit yourself there, but then once you get there, they're like, oh,
No, you're not.
And then
you're not that bad.
severe.
Your problems aren't bad enough.
Right, like
Yeah.
that makes no sense at all.
It's very weird. And they ask you such personal questions. They know what's happening. Unless you were lying during your admittal process, they know what's happening. It's just very weird who they choose to accept. Because they do have certain amount of beds that are available, so they have to be selective with it. If they don't think you are in serious harm of hurting yourself or hurting someone else, they're not going to admit you. If they don't think it's an immediate thing, they're not going to admit you. But it is mainly white people up there. And maybe it's because mainly white people are going to get the treatment. But it is very weird once you're up there just seeing that it's mainly white people, even though you knew there were people of color in the waiting room trying to get accepted. It's very weird.
Do they at least like refer them out? Because I totally get the bed situation. It still doesn't make their choosing process like valid,
Right.
but like, do
Just
they
get
at least
more
refer
beds.
them somewhere else?
At my specific facility, there was inpatient and outpatient. And inpatient is where you are staying in the upstairs rooms for at least 5 days before you can be admitted out. There's people who have been there for months, will stay there forever basically. But the outpatient facility is individualized and group therapies. It's kind of the same thing. Like, they'll be accepting more of people of color to get into the outpatient facility, but it is still mainly white people. And I don't know if it's that specific facility or if it's just in general, but it is just a very weird thing. I have no idea what the referral process would be for that, though, so I can't speak on that part.
Well, I am just in shock, honestly.
Right,
Like,
that's
I'm not surprised,
insane.
honestly.
And it's
More
crazy because I
incarceration.
know for the black community, it's hard for us to admit that we need help. Like,
Mhm.
Especially
so I
black
can't
people.
imagine once you get there, they're like, oh, you're not crazy, or oh, you're fine. It's like, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Especially if they're coming to you for help and you turn them down, that's absurd to me.
Right,
Because
right.
Yeah.
yet again, they're being turned down mostly by their family as well. So now they go to
Exactly.
professionals and they're like, nah, you're good. So then they believe that they're okay and they stay in this mental state.
It's like heartbreaking.
Okay, before we get to like the issue of schools and everything, I want to bring up a certain topic. So when people are going through depression, anxiety, whatever mental health issue it may be, I feel like this typically happens for high schoolers, but they're usually told that they are faking it for attention. What's never recognized about that is, even if it is the rare case that they are faking it for attention, is that not considered a mental health issue that you are willing to go so far as to fake being mentally ill to get attention?
Melissa?
Yeah, so that's definitely something that obviously I relate to. I grew up really religious. I went to a church, and they had a very interesting stance on mental health. At one point, it was a complete, if you're doing this and you're, this should be something that you take between you and God. This shouldn't be something that you're, bringing to worldly things. So that really, discouraged talking to your peers about it. Then you should just pray about it and it'll go away.
Oh my gosh.
Give it up to God, right?
Yeah. No, that was literally something that happened. Yeah.
I completely agree with you on the religious part. I was in kind of a small town, so if someone's admitted to a psych ward, obviously everyone's going to know that. So everyone in my church had known about that. I was asked several times when I got out if I had prayed enough, if that's why I felt like I was suicidal, if I had been praying or not. And that's just a very weird stigma around the religious part of it.
It's kind of like downplaying your actual feelings by saying that. Alyssa?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to that. If it was for attention, then
I'm mentally ill enough to
Literally.
need that attention.
Yeah.
Why do you think I need attention? What is
Exactly.
happening in my brain that I need attention?
Exactly. I don't know. And can I get personal a bit?
Yeah.
So-
This is an open space.
Okay. So whenever I was struggling with self-harm, it wasn't visible when I was wearing clothing. It was not on an area of my body that people that do it for attention, per se, that's in big air quotes, would do it. And I don't know, my mom literally asked me, "Are you doing this for attention?" And
With that kind of tone, ouch.
I know, and it was really hurtful, and it made me just sort of regret even telling her about it. And it was just, in general, a really kind of humiliating experience.
It's wow.
Yeah.
I think I'm really doing this for attention.
Exactly.
That's the first thing that comes to your mind.
And something else that the disordered eating that I went through and still kind of struggle with, I just haven't told anyone about it because I'm so scared that I'm going to get told that I'm doing it for attention, especially because I dance, and there's obviously the extremely high rate of eating disorders among dancers. I don't want to be that attention-grabbing stereotype that many people think of.
I feel like how we can relate this to our students, there are many students out there who are going to do those attention-seeking behaviors, and they might not be getting that attention at home. They might be getting that attention at home, but they might just need more. They could have the perfect family, but their brain still needs more attention.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like we shouldn't look down on those kids who are speaking out, being obnoxious, getting their wiggles out, doing things for attention, because their brain needs that attention, or they wouldn't be putting in that effort to get that attention.
It's really hard to pretend to be something that you're not, especially at that age. So they are definitely begging for attention.
Exactly.
And so even if it's that case of, oh yes, I'm begging for attention, like we were saying earlier, it should be something to look at, because even if it would, go ahead.
It's a cry for help.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's my view on it.
And just one more topic to kind of wrap this up, but it's our bigger topic, is just in general, how should schools approach students that are going through mental health treatments or that express the need for mental health treatments, and should schools offer treatments of their own?
Alyssa.
Yeah, so I had several friends that reached out for help through the school system, and the response that they got was nowhere near adequate. You know how there's confidentiality whenever you go to a therapist or a counselor? There was none of that. It was completely violating.
It's not a safe
any of-
space.
Exactly. So once people figured out, oh, I can't go to the school to get the help that I need, they just stopped.
Yeah.
Because what happened when you asked for help, you were either you got a phone call to your parents, and God knows how that would go. And if it was you told someone I'm in immediate risk of harming myself or another person, immediately shipped off to the shittiest psych ward in the whole county. And it really felt to like a lot of my friends that they had no autonomy, that they were not heard, and that they were not like given what they needed. So I really think that what school systems should do, I feel like there should be funding allocated, and I know that this is really hard because there's a funding issue for literally everything. There should be funding allocated for at least one counselor or therapist or some sort of figure in a school that is there for students struggling with mental health, and that they should have some sort of confidentiality as long as there's no like immediate risk to themselves or another person or something that would warrant like mandated reporter
at home or something.
Yeah, anything that wouldn't warrant like mandated reporter. I feel like they should have someone to talk to about that. Yeah, Red?
Yeah.
Now this is not like the only issue I see with that. It's not an issue per se. It's just that parents and their opinions, they're gonna be like, I don't want my kids talking to some random blah blah blah. I don't want them telling everything that's in my household. This is my kid. And I feel like there's gonna be some parents out there who are gonna be like, no, I don't like that. I don't want that in the schools. And which is also very hard because these kids do need help. They need somebody to talk to. So I'm not trying to like say what else can we do, but what else can we do?
That's a really good point.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, I get the question, like, what could we do? But honestly, truthfully, I don't know. Because it's as good as it sounds of the whole confidentiality thing, we have that rule now, but they just don't follow it. So what else could we do? Like, and like I said, your therapist has a therapist. Like, we just have each other. So it's going to be really hard to, like, I think it's has something to do with your home and your parents. I think that would be most important because at the end of the day, I would be more comfortable talking to my parents than a therapist if my parents were like understanding and they knew, but they don't. So I don't know what we could do, but yeah. Okay.
I was just gonna say like a small little comment. Like, I agree with what you were saying, Red, because some parents are like that. They think, oh, it's all about me. What is this going to make me? How is this going to make me look? My child coming to you about their problems. They're going to make me seem like I'm a bad parent, in which my mom did do sometimes. She's like, okay, you never talked about this before. How do you think it's going to make me look? What about me? And I'm like, this is not about you. This is my mental health.
I totally agree with that. I want to mention a different perspective. It's like, my mother was always someone, and still is, someone that I can go to and be completely open with. But as a child, I knew she had her own struggles. So I didn't want to put that on her. So I would keep my struggles to myself because even though I did have open communication with her, I didn't want to be an extra burden to add to her own issues. So,
not to play devil's advocate for parents, but I do somewhat understand the parents who struggle with the idea of their kids talking to strangers, especially in schools, because I have personally witnessed, like, even in the mental health facilities, the second you mention your family, CPS is called, DFACS is called, and it's such a strong issue on that part because even if they have the tiniest suspicion of abuse or whatever it is, they're going to call. Even if it's not that, even if it's just, oh, my mom makes me feel sad, they're not going to say, hey, let's have a sit-down family meeting. They're going to say, okay, we need to have your family inspected. So I can't understand why parents would be concerned about that kind of stuff.
I have a funny story to add to it.
I have a story after you.
Okay, it's funny because I want to lighten the mood, but it's about the topic. I'm sorry. Okay, sorry.
I'm gonna bring it dark.
Well then, a little laughter before the thunder, the sunshine. Okay, so I don't know how old Red was, but Red was pretty young.
Love a third person.
She was pretty young, and she was like, oh no, I love academics, so I cannot get this bad grade that I got on my test. So I went up to my teacher and I was like, teacher, I can't get this bad grade because my mom's gonna hit me. I can't
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
My nephew did that.
Red was doing, okay? You can't blame Red. Red had no idea. Red was young. Red didn't know what CPS was. Red didn't know any of that. So you can't blame Red. What Red knew was, if I get this bad grade, I'm going to get in trouble. That does not mean that my mom was going to beat me, per se. I just said, I'm going to get in trouble. Let me lie to this teacher. So I told the teacher the lie. She was like, okay, yeah, okay. And my mom was mad at me. So mad when she got a call that CPS was coming. And I had no idea what any of this meant. Yeah, so she was like showing me this movie. It was a Tyler Perry movie of
Not Medea.
No, it was I think it's called Daddy's Little Girls. And how they were gonna get and how they were gonna get taken away. And my mom said, "You see that? You see how they're gonna get taken away?" I don't know if it was that one. I think it was.
It was definitely that one.
Yeah.
Because that's
Was
when
it?
that's
That's
when
the
the daughters
version.
are gonna take away
The 3 girls?
Yeah.
Either that one or the other one that he made with the
With the
single
salad?
mom, the single mom, and Tyler Perry was the main character. Oh my god!
Oh, the one she was like working at
the office.
Oh yeah, no, I forget.
Yeah,
Good
what is-
Deeds.
Good Deeds, yes.
Something good.
That one or that one, either one. I can't remember. Remember, Red was young. So, she said that will happen to you. They're gonna take you out of your home. You'll never see your sisters again. You'll never see me again. I was scared. I was so scared. I was like, I didn't know all of this was gonna happen. I just didn't want a bad grade. So CPS came the following day, and the teacher lied on my mom, saying that she beat me with belts, hangers, all this stuff. And I'm like, that never happened.
Right.
I just lied, and it turned into a whole big thing, and I didn't know. So I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, so this is why I feel like some parents would piggyback off of what Kurt said, that they would just be like, no, you can't say all this stuff because what's happening in my home has nothing to do with everybody else.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was Red's story.
Thank you for sharing.
Yes.
Very interesting.
And I think we as teachers need to make sure we're not doing that kind of stuff. We
Yeah.
are
Yes.
trying to give our students the best help possible. And although we're going to be mandated reporters, we need to focus on how we can help the student before we make it an issue. We need to not have the first goal be, ooh, I think CPS needs to come. We need to evaluate it like,
Yeah.
How
is
can I help
CPS
you?
need to come, or does this student need actual genuine help,
Right.
not CPS, because CPS doesn't help.
They don't.
Let's be
They don't.
honest.
They don't.
There have been so
Let's
many
be
cases.
honest.
They help on certain situations, but not,
Yeah.
Yeah. They help when
They help.
not for like mental health.
Yeah. CPS has its place, but it should not be a first resort, in my opinion, unless
Yeah.
there is like a severe circumstance that calls for it.
Yeah.
What was your story?
Sorry.
It's kind of dark. Okay.
Gotta say it real fast.
Okay, I'll do it really fast. Okay, so I have an experience with a therapist. Okay, I feel pretty comfortable with all y'all, so I'm gonna go ahead and share this. Oh, don't cry. So, what is it called? I deal with a disorder called trichotillomania. I don't know if y'all ever heard of that, but it's like a kind of like a OCD. Like you do things because of OCD. So mine was plucking my eyelashes, and I did that. It started in like first grade up until literally like last year is when I like kind of stopped. Sometimes I do have moments where like I'll catch myself plucking or whatever because of anxiety, but basically I was going through that for a very, very long time, and my mom, sent me to therapy, and I did not like that experience at all because first of all, my mom was in the room when I was talking to my therapist, so that already was like, I don't feel comfortable talking to you if my mom is here because some of the problems were coming from my mom. Not saying she was like, my mom's a great mother, I love her, down, but it was like things with my dad and my mom, like they were going through things in their relationship, and I felt like I was in the middle of that, and I would like witness things happen, and that would just make my anxiety bad. Also, during that time, my mom had also like remarried, and she the person that she remarried had a son that would do things to me, but basically when I was in therapy, like I would tell my therapist things that I was going through, and all she said was like, it's okay, just talk to your mom more. And she sent me home with, like, I remember she sent me home with this, like, SpongeBob, like, squeeze ball to help with my OCD. Girl, that didn't help at all. Like, I still kept, like, plucking, and I still kept, like, it would get so bad. I can show y'all pictures. It would get so bad, like, there was no lashes on my eyes at all. I would also pluck my eyebrows, and some people at school thought I had cancer because I didn't have any hair. But that therapist, like, I loved my mom for trying to get me help, but that's why I'm so scared to go back to therapy, because I felt like my problems weren't, like, good enough. Like, she just said you'll be okay, but I needed actual help, and the only way that I got help is because of myself and just, like, journaling and, like, praying to, I don't know, like, therapy just didn't help for me. But yeah, that's all I'm saying.
We love you. Thank you for sharing.
Do you want to help? That was very brave of you to share. Thank you for sharing.
So
I know
great.
that what you've been through is completely valid. None of what happened is
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring it
No,
down.
it's okay.
You are loved.
I just wanted to share that.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. All right.
So we're gonna wrap it up here. We've made some jokes, but we've talked about a lot of serious stuff today. Mental health really matters. So if you or someone you know is struggling, please reach out for help. There's a suicide hotline. It's 988. Call that. You will have someone to talk to. They can refer you out. I personally have called the suicide hotline before, and the person that I spoke to, as I was crying, told me, when I have those moments, think of your favorite song and start singing the words to your favorite song and sing it over and over. Just, it's not a solve all situation, but sing that song that makes you happy. So I usually go to a Disney song because those will bring happy feelings. But do reach out for help. Don't be in it alone. You're not struggling alone. We're all struggling here. So do reach out.
Yeah.
Yes.
No matter what you are going through or how much you feel like your problems don't matter, they do. If it's causing you that mental distress or it's not making you feel like the best that you can, you deserve help. Absolutely, please let someone that you know and trust that you need some support. There's nothing wrong with it.
You are worth it.
Absolutely.
And just remember, if you're at rock bottom, the only way you can go is up.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful, Red.
Good job, guys. That's all we have for today. Thank you for joining us on our podcast, Breaking the Iceberg. We'll see you guys next time.
See you next time.
Bye.